everyone who's ever run a business has had seasons where they're more tapped in to work than they are to life, even if life is more important. Because here's the key thing. It doesn't necessarily mean I automatically spend more hours outside of work. It may mean that there's a balance in some way, but it will always mean, at least for us, that should those life things come up, they always trump the work thing, even if we are in a season where things are busier at work.
Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, the podcast for women who want to build incredible mental strength to level up their business and lifestyle. I'm Renee Warren, the founder of We Wild Women, author, speaker, award-winning entrepreneur, and your host. Together, we will make you unapologetic about shining your light, growing your business, and turning you into a wildly confident and successful leader. This is for you, the visionary, the go-getter, the entrepreneur, and for those that need a real kick in the butt to get going and to dream bigger. Each week, I bring in leading experts and entrepreneurs to help you take leaps in the right direction, because I know the best advice comes from someone who has successfully done it before. So, are you ready to level up? Welcome to Into the Wild. My next guests are the business fairy godmothers behind Boss Project and the hosts of the chart-topping podcast, The Strategy Hour. They're internet famous for their program, Trello for Business, which breaks down boring and complicated systems into bite-sized chunks. They have helped over 10,000 creative small business owners create simplicity and ease in reaching their goals. After getting their start in 2015 serving clients in marketing and branding space, they now help other service-based business owners reignite their offer, create systems for client experience, and get more of their time back inside the program called the Incubator. Please welcome the wildly successful Abagail and Emylee Williams. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me on Into the Wild.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so I was saying prior to this, actually just a second ago, how I'm a little starstruck because I've been listening to your show for so long. You developed this little fan in it. And
we've been on the air for 5 years. That's bananas to me.
Yeah. Wow.
We've been talking for 5 years for nonstop.
And you guys do talk a lot. So this is great. It comes naturally for you guys. So I want to know, where are you ladies from?
We're both technically from Kansas City. I think Emylee had a bit of a split adventure in the grand scheme of things, but born and raised here. Emylee also spent a lot of time in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, that place. Tulsa. I was born there. I lived there until fifth grade and then moved to Kansas City. But my whole family lives there. So I unfortunately have to go back often. But I say I'm from Kansas City and I live in Kansas City, and that's all that matters.
Well, perfect. I'm from a small town in Ontario, Canada called North Bay. And it's one of those towns where maybe there's a flight there today. Maybe there's a flight there tomorrow. And I had an adventure there this summer. And at the end of the day, they canceled all flights. I had to take an Uber from Toronto to my small town. It was 4-hour Uber drive. I mean, the guy actually picked
that Uber.
There's some secrets to it. I can't really share on air. However,
top secret.
It was one of those things where it's this gift, this person shows up and he's somebody told me I really needed to pick you up. All my kids are looking like little puppies there because we need to get home.
Oh no. Yeah, you painted pictures of your feet.
Stop it.
Okay, so we got that out of the way. What is the toughest moment you had to face as an entrepreneur?
This moment for myself, I'm Abagail, by the way, really came down to a day that surprised us both and then completely changed the trajectory of our business. November 3rd, 2016, I had a very normal morning with Emylee. We had our very typical nonstop talk on the phone for literally hours in a row. And I was like, I'm starving. I got to go, girl. So I hop in the car. The next thing I know, I'm in a 5-car collision. And it was both terrifying and I had no idea how it was going to change the trajectory of my life.
She calls me from the roadside, hey, this happened. no big deal. I'm like, okay, like fender bender, that's fine. And then later that afternoon, I get a notification that someone in our account is live on our page, and she's in the hospital in the bed live streaming because she's so out of it. And I see the like actual extent of what's happening, and all her monitors start beeping. And then she's like, gotta go, and just hangs up the live. Then nothing was the same after that.
Do you remember doing that live?
Absolutely. I absolutely remember doing the live. I can't quite explain it, but all those years ago, we had a very like close-knit relationship with our community. And
our audience was much smaller.
I always felt like we were always talking to them and always around. And I just had no filter. I've since developed a more responsible filter for my life and content, slightly. If you listen to the Strategy Hour podcast, you've probably heard me say
it's not true.
There's some filter.
But what I didn't know at the time, and I didn't know for a while, was that I would later be diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury. And what I thought was going to be a few bad days in a hospital bed and being sore and taking some good drugs from the ER turned into a multiple year recovery, so much therapy, and a lot of things that had to, for the sake of our business, happen behind the scenes. So pretty much overnight, Emylee and I had to restructure how we operated the business. The thing that was really crazy about the whole event is less than 8 weeks after it happened, Emylee adopted her first child, and we had been planning for her mat, but instead of her going on mat leave, we were both completely out of the business for basically 90 days. And we had to keep running, operating, and paying ourselves.
Oh, and it was like 2 months before we launched our podcast and launched our flagship offer that we had for many years.
We built a brand new program in the midst of recovery. Like, it was a very insane time, but it absolutely changed how we do and operate business.
That's crazy. Why do I feel like every female entrepreneur does this? I started my last agency when I was 8 months pregnant with my first son because I thought babies just slept all the time. They do, not at night. And so, I mean, it's not similar, but that is terrible. That happened to you. And now you're good? You're fully recovered?
At this point, it took years. I got to like 80-90% recovered within the first 18 months or so. But that last 10%, man, it took a long time. But I definitely remember, I think it was last summer, I had a conversation with Emylee and I was like, I think I'm finally all the way back.
I think I'm back. Yeah.
So a year ago.
Yeah, from that point on, we have really took it up a notch since then.
I was like, oh, you ready? Let's go.
Uh-oh.
So the last 10% was rough, but it was good. It ultimately defined how we operate our business as life first. And so that's a big part of our business philosophy and a lot of what we teach to our own clients.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that. Thank you for sharing. And I'm glad that you're back to 100%. Yay, welcome back. No more excuses. So these ladies have the most incredible podcast called The Strategy Hour. And this is probably where I fangirl. It's like every morning, it just feels like I'm having coffee with you.
Yes, that's how I want it to feel.
Yeah, because you just chat and then you drop some nuggets and you're like, whoa, okay, I need to write that down. But let's dive into that stuff because you have so much good strategy stuff to share. So first of all, tell us quickly about your company, and then we'll jump into some other questions.
We are the founders of Boss Project. If you've been around for a while and have listened to our show since 2017, you might semi-remember us as Think Creative Collective. That's how we actually started. But ultimately, we both met when we had our own services. We joined forces, decided to go into business together after like 4 months of knowing each other because we're crazy, decided to join our services and just open a little bit more premium high-end marketing boutique. Did that for a while, served clients locally in Kansas City and across the country. And then we are super passionate about teaching everything we know, and we learn something by doing it or helping our clients achieve that. And we want to turn around and talk about it, strategize, be a sounding board, literally show and walk other business owners how to do it. And so we started just like testing, how can we do that? And we got really involved in online education around 2017 and basically never looked back, but did it from a space of service and really paying attention to our students like clients and trying to create high-end experiences and intimate experiences with our audience, both in the show and our content online, because we just like literally don't know when to stop talking about business stuff and strategy and marketing and selling and all of that fun stuff. But how can we actually see it happen and make a difference in other business owners' lives? Yeah. So today that looks a lot differently, where we have a plethora of educational resources like the podcast, like the blog, like some trainings and some workshops. We have a DIY with us through our program, the Incubator. And then we have done for you services where our team steps in and really helps you figure out client experiences or automations or social or content or SEO or website or branding, all the things that we've been good at and doing for clients for over 7 years. And so it's a really fun space to be. We get to just show up with really fun clients and see their things come to life. And it's awesome.
Yeah. And I think at the root of it all, our mission is really to help more female and femme entrepreneurs build a business that's not only financially stable and financially supporting them, but financially thriving and giving them the freedom of choice to choose how they spend their life and how they build their business. So
yes, that's what this show's all about. I'm glad you're here.
Sure.
Okay, so tell us, what do you believe is a big mistake that one-on-one business owners make when trying to scale their business?
Oh man, I think so often people get confused by what they want and how they need to get there. They assume what they want and like how they want their life to look and how they want to be showing up only has one path. And they usually decide their first thing is their best thing. And they get pretty distracted by it to the point that they're not usually paying attention to the things that have already worked well for them.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of like, if I want this, then I have to do that to get there.
Right. And I think more often than not, they're ignoring perhaps the thing that got them here. And they don't understand that usually you can refine and tweak and modify an existing product or service to get you there. It does require some productization. It does require you pricing appropriately. It does mean that you're going to have to like really audit what you're doing. But so often scaling is way more possible with what you already have, because what ends up happening on the flip side is they decide there's only one way to get there. And usually that means starting over. And so they don't even necessarily realize that their alternative path isn't a scaling method. It is literally a brand new business that they have decided somehow is the business they're already in, but they feel like it's a giant uphill battle because it is.
Because it is. Because what's fun is to start something new. What's fun is to build. And we try to get back the joy of how our first couple years of business felt when we got to be creative and throw spaghetti at the wall and not be afraid of trying new things. And it was like all for experimentation. Because once you're in that like multiple 6-figure realm, you're kind of like doing the same things. And like you've probably plateaued and you're like, I don't really know what it's going to take to get there. Because we're not taught how to maintain, how to cultivate, how to refine, how to take what's already existing and make sure the foundation is really strong so it can support the growth. We take the thing that's already over here and we add on another thing. And so ultimately, the amount of business owners that we've seen have gotten so many different pillars to a point and then it stops. Okay, new pillar and I get it to this point and then it stops. And if we do that too much, burnoutville, first of all, and then you have like however many businesses or products or ideas that have only gotten to a certain point and you're convinced that you don't know what it's going to take to scale past. You don't think having $1 million plus business is for you, that you're cut out for it, or whatever lies we want to tell ourselves because we've only let ourselves get to a certain point. Because building is fun and maintaining isn't.
Well, and those limiting beliefs come in too. Because if you think you're a $100,000 entrepreneur, then that's all you're ever going to be. And that's really hard to break past. And I like this example, how it relates to Marie Forleo, because she's been doing almost the same thing for, I don't even know how long now.
A lot.
And she tweaks it. Amy Porterfield too, Digital Course Academy. Yeah. And she just relaunches it because here's the reality is a lot of people know what they do in their offer, but they're not ready to buy right now because that's not the stage of business they're in, but maybe next year. And you constantly have to be reminded, like, here's a solution to your problem. So I see this a lot too. Women are just like, yep, nope, this isn't working, on to the next thing. And then what happens is these dopamine hits because all of a sudden there's this big uptake in this new thing.
Yes.
But they can't get past the same level.
You're addicted to that dopamine and you're addicted to the starting. You're addicted to the new challenge. And a lot of what we talk about is trying to identify, if you're craving the challenge, why are you trying to do that at work where that's literally the means in which you're trying to exist and pay your family? Let's be challenged with like a new craft, a new hobby, a volunteer opportunity.
Because this is also outside of just this industry too. I feel like we like to think that we're just in a bubble and like our problems are so girly and we just like out them because we're in this industry. It's literally everyone. Everyone has this problem. My mom's partner was talking to her about how he got laid off from medical sales during the pandemic and then had to take a different job where he's like a manager for a building downtown or something. And it's a totally different arena. It pays like good money, not as good as the other job, but he has openly said it pays definitely enough. It's zero stress where the other job was super stressful. And it's so easy, but he doesn't like that there's no challenge. There's nothing for his brain. Like it's just like monotonous autopilot type work. And so he wants to find a different job. And my mom was like, dude, just challenge yourself after work. Learn a new skill, learn how to play the piano or take a course to learn something or go be a chef part-time, like culinary things, like do something that's going to challenge you elsewhere. And so this is what we talk about with our clients all the time. And I wrote what I feel like was a really impactful email pretty recently. Oh, I mean, we got good feedback from it. So, but it's basically the consequences of finding joy in your work. And I talk about how over the last few years, we've all been preached at to like create a job you love. And if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life and all that bullshit. And so we like have a hard time separating all of our happiness, our holistic happiness from our work. And so if everything that we need as human beings to be fulfilled doesn't come from our job, then we're doing it wrong. And instead, like your job can just like pay you good money and it can just do that. Your job can like be low stress and pay you okay money and it can just do that. And you can find other things, whatever it might be, outside of that. It doesn't have to come from one place. A lot of pressure.
Yeah. And I love about this is tying in the idea of identity, because what we believe, especially as women, is that we have to do the same thing for the rest of our lives and can't be challenged, right? Yeah. To do something else. So we're like, oh, well, if I'm a nurse and I've been a nurse for 20 years, how dare me to go and discover something else?
My quote is about this. If you want to ask me what my favorite quote is.
What is your favorite quote?
Okay. So I saved this thing. It's not like a sexy quote, but it's literally about this topic. And so someone posted, I think a lot about how often as a culture, we've turned forever into the only acceptable definition of success. Why can't we just like create something that serves us in this unique way? And that is successful. And if we need something else, go find it somewhere else.
Yeah. I remember growing up, I would quiz my mom quite frequently about her past and her career. And I was just so fascinated because if you ever were to sit down with a person, most diverse, random resume there might exist. And this was all before she became permanently disabled, which is a story for an entirely other day. But I very specifically remember as a young teen, instead of feeling like I was going to be trapped in my career for the rest of my life, because I saw a lot of my peers who were like being pressured to become doctors, lawyers, like dedicate themselves to a profession. And I literally at the same time period was like, if I end up with the most random fucking resume like my mom, I will have made it. If I can find the most interesting, ridiculous path, I will have made it. And somewhere, I would say like 5 years ago or so, I remember really sitting down and thinking about what I've done and what I've accomplished and just like the clear diversity of the type of work I've done. And I said, damn, I did the thing. And I know because of that, I'm going to go on from now until I retire and probably during retirement because I don't know how to stop. I will do so many different things because I've allowed myself to pivot along the way and be called different things. And it doesn't mean that my work hasn't been stable in this business, but I'm also mindful that like the work I'm doing does have to pivot with the times and with the market.
And we also evolve as humans.
Like your needs, your desires, how you want to show up. Even if the business is relatively the same, my role within the company has dramatically changed over the last 7 years.
Yeah. James Clear says this quote, deconstruction creates knowledge. recombination creates value.
Yeah.
And how I see that is like everybody has so much to offer. It doesn't matter how old you are, but especially if you've lived an adventurous life and you keep being curious and you're reading and you're connecting with people and meeting new people, doing different things. As you get older, you have so much more wisdom to offer, which can become something else, which obviously is going to influence you wanting to change careers or stay the course. And we kind of ignore that.
Yeah. I don't know the exact quote, but Phoebe Waller-Bridge, when she accepted some award, I'm sure for Fleabag, because it was phenomenal, she thanked her mom and she said something like, my mom always told me, you can be whatever you want as long as you're outrageous. And I just love that so much, where I'm like, just do whatever you want to do outrageously and fun and like get joy from it in different aspects.
Yeah. My husband got me at Christmas time a few years ago, a really nice ring that on the inside, he got it engraved. It says, let me hear you roar.
Oh,
because I feel like we're all lionesses.
Yeah.
And we just have to be louder, which means like screw the following the same career or screw not changing things and doing the same thing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
What are we good at? And we're healthy and we get back to our community and we're there for our kids and our family. Like do that.
Do those things.
All those things. Okay, so now I'd love to know, what is the missing element that business owners need when trying to design a life-first business? And explain to us what life-first business is.
Yeah, so this is a value that we have both internally for our team and externally for clients. So meaning we live it well, we try to live it well, we hold ourselves up to it within our team, and we hold our team members accountable to it. But we also hold our clients to it. And then we teach our clients how they can hold themselves and their team to it. It's like all inception about this value. Like Abby was saying earlier, it came about because of our own life circumstances, because here's what we had to do. Here are the things that we like physically, mentally could not say yes to because of the state that we were in. Okay, so what does that mean? It doesn't mean that we're not in business. It doesn't mean that we're not growing. It just means there's a different way to achieve the same thing. And what can open up for us while we're trying to achieve that. And so for us, creating and at least designing and identifying what a life first business is for you is first identifying how you want to feel as you're heading towards the obstacles or how you're heading towards the outcomes. And we try to walk our clients through a separation of setting goals and instead set objectives. And what do you want the end result to be so that you can be open to the different ways that it could look on how to get there. We help them to develop an experimental mindset, culture of curiosity within their team and their offers and their selling strategies and their marketing strategies. And if we can create a group of people who is confident, is action taking, and knows that the ebb and flow of this industry is your biggest asset to scaling and your biggest asset to sustainable growth, to creating a healthy culture, an ethical culture within your workspace, all of those things, then like, I know we did our job.
Yeah. I think in terms of mistakes around that, the thing that I see come up is when people dedicate themselves to building their business in this way, I often see like one of the first stages that ends up happening is they start to beat themselves up for all the times where they feel like they're maybe not living within that value. And here's the thing. I can't say that living in this value looks one way all the time. Because there are going to be times where you have to show up more in one area or in one space, and your life will throw you curveballs and you have to respond to those things. So it's not about saying, okay, I'm going to be life first to me, which means like first, I'm going to always pick up my kids from school, or I'm always going to do this thing in this way. I mean, maybe this season, that's what it means. But what about 6 months from now? What if something changes? I think the big thing with this is you have to be willing to address what does it mean for me right in this season? And are there things I do want to adapt and change so that I can work towards a variation on it? Like maybe it's not ideal right now and you want to make changes. Okay, great. Let's acknowledge those things. But there's no need to beat yourself up. Everyone who's ever run a business has had seasons where they're more tapped in to work than they are to life. Even if life is more important, because here's the key thing. It doesn't necessarily mean I automatically spend more hours outside of work. It may mean that there's a balance in some way, but it will always mean, at least for us, that should those life things come up, they always trump the work thing. even if we are in a season where things are busier at work.
Hey there. Before we continue on with Abagail and Emily's episode, I wanted to tell you about something you might want to take action on today. The morning practice planner is ready for pre-order. If you've been following me on social media, then you may have seen me share some videos and photos and reels of this beautiful planner. But let me tell you, it's more than just blank pages with the date. This planner has been a labor of love for years and has a whole theory behind it. It starts with taking you through 5 exercises like how to make better decisions, creating core values that are aligned with you, setting goals, designing a vision board, and planning mission statements. All this to help you work on the right tasks every day. Not only that, you're prompted to track your results daily, weekly, and quarterly because, as they say, what you measure gets managed, and what you manage pushes you closer to achieving your goals. So how about it? Want to uncover the most productive and fun version of yourself? Then head to morningpracticeplanner.com to secure your planner today. That's morningpracticeplanner.com. We're doing this program now called Family Brand. It's with Chris and Melissa Smith, and it's essentially creating a brand. You guys would appreciate this for your family. You actually have like a slogan and you have like your core values that you put up on your wall. And part of it is an understanding this too. Like my boys now are 9 and 10 years old, so they can actually have adult like input into this. Yeah. And part of it is like, we ask them, what can we do to be better parents? Like, what is like the one thing? And it's always so simple.
It's
right?
so
like,
little.
It is. And like for Noah, it's like, well, Daddy, you don't pick me up at school enough. Like realistically, he never does. It doesn't happen. The timing doesn't work. He's like, maybe once a week. And he's like, I can totally do that. And then my son Noah came up with these 5 touch points. Like every day, Mama, I need to have 5 hangout sessions with you. And I'm like, okay, I don't have that much time in a day. And I go, let's define a hangout session. He goes, the 2-minute cuddle in the morning.
Done.
The 2-minute cuddle at bedtime.
Done. Conversations
when you drive me to school or camp.
Done.
And like, there's 2 other, and I'm like, we already do these things. And now we're counting this. And it's a love tank.
Yeah.
And I can still have a full day of work or rest or be with them. And we think it has to be everything about family or everything about business. We don't kind of like spread it on thin like peanut butter and jelly, right?
Yeah.
We can make it what we want it to be.
I love that you're including your kids in that conversation. I think it's such an important aspect of this. One of the concepts that Emily and I talk about when we start talking about roles in the family and roles at home is, if you haven't heard of Eve Rodsky's Fair Play solution, I definitely recommend you guys look into it. There's a book about it. There's a deck of cards that you can utilize to have conversations around it. Emily and I discovered this after we had already implemented a lot of these things inside our own household, but the concepts are the same. And that it's really about creating open communication around how are you dividing the labor, emotional and physical labor of the household among you and your partners. I definitely think you can include kids in that conversation. But if you feel like things are out of whack, so often you got to start with your little circle. Like, who's in your bubble? Who's affecting your day-to-day more than anything else? And oftentimes stress from work can actually be triggered from like an imbalance at home. And so like we need to take time to acknowledge those.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. It's so important.
The concept for that game or education for your household can also trickle over into how you can be a leader within work, because one of the skill sets that it tries to teach you is not just communication, but like, if you're going to take this task, here's what done looks like to me. What does done look like to you? And how can we come to the same agreement collectively as a family? This is what this task means when it's done. And if you're taking it from conception to finalization. I'm going to be no part of brainstorming part of this, doing the end step. If you're taking it, you're taking all of it. And so practicing those skill sets at home not only show immediate results within your household, and that's pretty incredible. If you can get free support at home, it helps you in other areas of your life, but it also teaches you aspects of, if you have team members, how to have those kind of same conversations with work tasks.
Totally. I think if we can be that perfect leader at home.
Yeah.
The perfect mom, the perfect partner, perfect person in the community, that definitely reflects in the organization.
Yeah.
And it starts at home. And you're right. It's like, it's coming into your house. Yes. The end of the day is the most calming thing. It's like, you got something right.
Yes.
You know, and how can you put that into business?
For anyone out there who's like, no, that's not how it is. Please know that like the first several years of my marriage, that was not my experience. And so like you can change those things though. And it takes time and it takes intention, but having home be a sanctuary is huge.
Yeah. And it starts with really good plants, sunlight.
Yeah.
It does though.
And
truly.
a lot of good snacks.
I always say sunlight is key. Like I literally bought this house based on the windows.
Yeah, totally. That's good feng shui. I love it. Okay. So what should service-based business owners focus on instead of marketing? Ooh.
Well, I feel like this conversation has been had by a lot of people. And so you're probably going to just roll your eyes as soon as I say the word, but we're still going to talk about it.
Okay.
Because it does actually matter. What do you need to focus on over marketing? Relationships and actually serving. We have our clients take a literal pledge that says, I will value serving over marketing. And that ties directly into building a life first business and designing one and intentionally living in one. Because when we're focused on marketing over serving, you find yourself focused on vanity metrics that don't actually matter. You're spending time on content or strategies or platforms that aren't actually tracing back to a conversion because you haven't spent the time to actually chase the breadcrumbs, which is what we help our clients do. And it also is fueling, more often than not, a lot of negative energies into why isn't this working? Why isn't it working enough or fast enough? Or nothing has gone viral and I need to spend more time to figure out the right piece of content. When in reality, what we have our clients shift is taking the amount of time that they're spending on all of that stuff and transition it to actual relationships. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is not just like bebopping into a networking event, virtual or otherwise, with your cards and being like, I'm going to get 5 clients out of this, or this wasn't.
Yeah, like you fan the cards all across the room.
How about instead, you just try to go make a friend and like literally talk to someone and build a connection and find something in similar. And then like maybe take them to coffee and like woo them in a friend way because you actually care about them. Because the more people that we have connections with and talk about our needs and our business and the ways that we can help them, it just grows the bubble of potential clients, of actual clients, of other connectors, of opportunities that you might not have even been able to put into words before you started this relationship. And that time is worth it every time. And it's everything else that's clouded our to-do list. That's the first thing that gets cut. And we need to get back to that.
This reminds me of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yes.
How we're like somehow related to him.
When we started like opening our mouths some more and started like widening our circle of connection a couple months ago, literally someone we had been working with for over a year, we were talking about client stuff and we were 1 degree away from Brene Brown.
Wow.
We were like,
that's impressive.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So we're working on that.
Yeah. Let's connect. Smaller version of non-Brene Brown, but I went to like a Soul Sister retreat in May. So we talked about prior to pressing record, how you guys focus on service-based businesses and that should be the focus. And then I admitted to starting product stuff. I know. Don't listen to this episode, Dan. Anyway, my first thing is a planner. It's called the Morning Practice Planner. It's ready now to pre-order. And it's not just a daily planner. It actually has some sort of like Danielle Laporte, you got to do some work and deep thinking and exercises before you get to your daily pages, because I teach you how to make decisions, how to create your goals, like the right way of setting things up so that when you're writing your tasks for the day, they're intentional. It's not like big goal for the day, put out the garbage and write a blog post. Like, that being said, so at the retreat, when I was talking about this planner, and I brought it with me because I had the orders still coming in from the manufacturer and I had the sample book with me. And it was there and like one girl next to me was like, what is that? I was like, well, that's my planner. She's like, let me look through it. So she sifted through it and she's like, this is great. And the woman next to her grabbed it and started looking through it. They're like, this is beautiful. Oh my gosh, did you create this? I love this. And I'm like, oh, like all my limiting beliefs came in. Like, I'm just a service-based business. I don't know how to create products. Like, who am I to do this? And the woman next to me is like, I want to order 12 for my next retreat. And I'm like, you want to pay me for this thing that I created? And then it kept going. The next one was like, oh, I have a community. I would love to pre-order 20. And like all of a sudden now I'm like in a moment with a handful of women that were like-minded, relevant, intentional. I pre-sold like 50 of my planners. I'm like, oh.
It just happens.
Yeah.
I just want you to note that it's the relationships there. It's not what you're selling or how you're putting it out into the world. I think a lot of people emphasize too often the graphic that goes on their social media to like launch the thing. When I'm like, have you like told the people that could like impact
how like this buyer right now?
I know.
Like in a personal way, like there's a certain stage in business where you start being a weirdo and you stop when you have new things, like you stop telling people outside of like your internal team until you send a launch email. And I'm like, why? You could pre-sell the shiz out of your things if you like talk to your inner
Just
circle.
Talk about it. Yeah. And here's the thing, and you're so right about this. Coming from a PR background is people, they know they buy from those they know they can trust. If you're just you, I can be like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to create the most perfect product-based business for female entrepreneurs, which might include a supplement line. You guys would be like, I actually like you, Renee, and I trust you. So sign me up.
What you got?
Yeah. Whatever that is, I think I need it.
Yes.
That's also the hard part in growing the business is because it is constant. You have to be going to the events. You have to be showing up. Even when there's days and you're like, oh, I feel like crap, or there's something going on. I can't do this. Actually, Lori Harder on her podcast this week with her husband, Chris, they talked about the exact same strategy. Be in the room. Be in the room. That's all that matters.
Or know someone who likes being in the room too. We have a big audience of introverts, myself included. And it sometimes is really awkward and uncomfortable for me to be in the room. But that's why I have Abby. She's really good at being in the room. And I can strategize behind the scenes and like help her set up for success. And then I'm like, okay, how'd it go? Because I don't want to be in that room. So I don't want actually any part of that. But I do need to know someone. So many introverts that we talk to are just like, I don't know anyone. I don't have any friends. I just moved to this new town, blah, blah, blah. You're going to have to try a little bit to get out of your comfort zone just like once. Just unlock one connector who can help you spread the word about how amazing you are.
I'm just saying Emily won the lottery. I'm just
I would say so.
The crush on me.
Well, it's true.
No, you guys are great. But also being in the room doesn't mean like physically in the room. It could be just showing up to an online mastermind.
Guys, this is how I do it. I follow people I actually care about and then I respond to their stories. And I make them my friend on Instagram or TikTok or wherever they are.
Surprised how effective that is.
Yeah, because you convince yourself all day long, like their DMs are blowing up and they're whatever. And I'm like, I have made friends with actual internet friends with so many verified accounts on Instagram that you think their DMs must be blowing up. And they might be. But like if you actually connect with them in a genuine way, you're like, oh, I'm actually friends with her.
Yeah, so now I have to be verified to be friends with you. Got it. No, I'm just joking.
I am only accepting new friend requests when verified.
Yeah, I need a blue check mark, right? Is that what it is?
Good luck.
I know, right? Okay, this is great. There's 2 more questions for you ladies.
Sure.
Oh God, this is one I say, one of my favorite quotes that I created, quoting myself, is consistency is your currency.
Yeah.
So you have been working together for how many years?
7.
Over 7, yeah.
That is like one of the, I mean, I know it's not you ladies, but that's like in marriage, that's one of the years that has the highest divorce rate. You guys still like each other?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
impressive.
For sure. A business partnership's a lot more like a marriage than it is like any other kind of relationship.
Yeah.
It is tough.
But we were business partners before we became close friends. And I believe that that's one of the secret sauces to why it's worked. And very early on, within 2 weeks of knowing each other, we knew that we had the same big dreams for the outcome. And we were jazzed about what the journey could look like to get there and had really, really good ideas on how it could feel, what our non-negotiables were. Our boundaries were really similar. And so like just the way of going about business in life is very similar.
It's like the same concept of if you're going to marry someone, like having similar morals and values are really important. It's different, but it's similar.
What are your business morals and values?
Yeah. And so in this, so you've been doing business together for this long and a version of your business How do you guys stay consistent in the things you know that work when it starts to get boring? What is any tips or tricks?
When it starts
I call Abby and say, I'm going to quit. And she's like, no, you're not.
You have done that a couple times. I think that we always try to use each other as our first line of defense to like, is someone just emotional and they just need to be talked off a ledge of some kind? And like, let's deal with that first. Does one of us need to go to therapy? Like, I mean, that's also potentially an option. But when we stop feeling challenged or when we want to like create something new, like there's always a discussion behind it. And we really identify, is this something the business should pursue, or is it going to add more confusion than it is going to help? But there was a time a couple of years back where both of us like craved being creative, and it didn't make sense for it to be inside the business. And so that's when we both like explored, we both built our own businesses at the same time, and we dedicated time to that for a couple of years. But it was interesting. We got the itch out, and then it was like, no, I'm still
okay. I'm good.
Have you guys read or done The Artist's Way before by Julia Cameron?
Mm-mm.
Oh, have you heard of this?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
It's intense. It's 12 weeks. I just started it, but you should see my office. I love how you say a hobby or creative or physical output outside of work actually helps you come back grounded in work.
Yes.
I have like a drum set here.
Yes.
I have probably $200 worth of like arts and crafts crap from the dollar store. And let me tell you, on my breaks or on evenings where I'm just not inspired, I go and bang on that drum. And you know what? It's not pretty. I'm not going to sell this stuff on Etsy. But it's so important to have that thing, right? And I love that. You're like, okay, break, come back together. I still actually want to do this with you. I was just joking.
We didn't ever like close the business or shut it down. It just was a different variation on how that business operated and worked. And so
we were tired too, like tired of intentionally growing within the business, of just like, what's the next thing? And okay, if we want to reach here, then that means we've got to create this. And we just didn't have the energy for it in
like,
that.
How do we just maintain?
How do we just keep getting paid and just
hard
doing this?
You guys have an episode about that, right?
Yeah. Sure, we have many.
No, like the one I was just listening to. I wrote down, was it creation versus maintenance? And I was like, there's something there I want to talk about too on another episode. But anyways, I'll put the link to your show in the notes because you have to go check it out. It's an incredible show. I am now friends with these women. I just hired somebody to get a blue dot next to my name. So we're good.
Just send me a screenshot of your account with it photoshopped on there. And I'll be like, okay.
It's like that blue dot's really bigger than everyone else's because I'm extra special. Okay, one last question for both of you. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that to you?
Ooh. I mean, I think a wild woman is unobjectionably able to be themselves in every situation. And I think the world is set up for you to fail at that. I think in a lot of ways, most women are designed or perhaps molded to show up a certain way in certain situations. And to be really wild would be to be 100% yourself in every situation, even when that's counterculture to where you're showing up. And it's very hard, but it can be done with practice and intention.
For me, I think a lot of the ability to be wild comes down to boundaries and your ability to hold them and state them and maintain them, but mostly actually identify what they need to be in order for you to be successful. Boundaries and holding them is one of my absolute favorite things to do and help others really come into learning how to do. I think women have the hardest time being firm with them and really figuring out in their life and their business how they can create an actual boundary that would serve them and help them, because we're just convinced of all the have tos and should dos that we need to do for other people. And I truly believe that prioritizing your needs above everyone else's, including your partner, including your kids, including your business partner, is going to serve everyone greater because you're served best.
100%. So that being said, go subscribe to their show.
Yes.
And make sure you're subscribed to Into the Wild. Emylee, Abagail, it's an extreme honor to have you on this show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. And if you guys want to hang out more, definitely send us a DM over at Boss Project or the Strategy Hour, anywhere podcasts are. And If you want to hear more about how you can work with us, I encourage you to go to bossproject.com/waitlist.
So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time, the best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.